Hello, and welcome to yet another episode of the Conversation Capital. Ubonga, Buata, how you doing, girl?
I'm good, sis. How are you?
I am awesome, thank you. Given, are you with us? Yes, no, maybe? No,
Yes.
Given is not with us. So today, I brought you guys something really special. We're continuing with the personal branding series, and so one of the elements we want to look at is just using social media to bolster one's career and to use it in a proper way, an efficient way. And so immediately when the topic idea came up, I said, it has to be the one, the only. Hi, Lazy Makoti, how are you? Can I call you Lazy Makoti?
Everybody does, so yeah.
How are you doing, Makau?
I'm great, thanks. How are you?
I'm awesome.
How
Thank
are
you so
guys?
much. We're
Good.
awesome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. I feel so special.
Can I tell you?
Now I've made it.
Can I tell you, Lazy was like the nicest person to me. We were at some event and I had never met her, and she literally just walked, she hugged me. She's like, "I love your podcast." Like,
I remember you
man.
came back and told
I was
us,
like, "Oh my
yeah.
gosh, this just happened!" And Nunku was crying sitting next to me. And I'm like, "Stop crying." It was so sweet of you. Anyway, so that's how we became buddies. And so moving, segueing to the first question. Tell us about yourself. People already know you, yes. But for this audience, let's start off with, the corporate element. And now tell us about you.
Sure, that's such a hard question. So my name is actually Morao Sishweni. Not a lot of people know that. And once in another lifetime, I was an auditor.
Imagine that.
Yeah, so I was that girl in corporate with the numbers. And then sometime into that, I realized that this isn't what I want to do. And how did it start? So a friend of mine asked that I give her cooking lessons, and she specifically wanted to learn to make like traditional South African food. She actually wanted to learn how to make bogobe, which is pap.
Yes.
And I taught her, and then it kind of snowballed from there. Literally, I taught her and her cousin and a friend and another friend and another friend. And then it became what I do on weekends, which is really wild. This is my favorite thing about Gauteng and Joburg, that like you really can make a career out of anything, guys. I made a career out of teaching people how to make pap. How insane. How really insane. Obviously it's not that linear, but that's like in a nutshell the story. And around about that time, I remember stumbling upon like this list. It's the UN's list of intangible aspects of humanity in need of urgent safeguarding.
Okay.
Very long.
Yeah.
But it's essentially a list that the UN put together, UNESCO, of like art, music, literature, food, all these things that are considered like important for the heritage of all humanity. So like everything that you can think of that is multicultural. And the only food on this list was French and Italian and Japanese. And I guess it got me thinking, why is the world like galvanizing to keep French, Italian, and Japanese food alive for future generations so that 100 years from now we can still have a pasta and a croissant? Who's doing the same work for our food? And the two kind of, came together. And that's when I left corporate and went to culinary school.
So you left corporate, went to culinary school after this. But in that culinary school, how are you preserving? Because I'm assuming how for the culinary school, you're not learning bogobe.
Yeah.
Ne?
Not at all. So I started the Lazy Makoti before I went to culinary school. So I saw that this is a thing. Once I started charging money for these services and people actually paying, I saw that I can make a case for this. This is a thing.
Sorry to interrupt.
No problem.
So does this mean you were the person pay, like you were always cooking for people?
It sounds like you're that friend.
Yeah, so I wanted to make sure before I assume, were
Yeah.
you that person who's always cooking?
I was that person in the office, only something, and everybody's at my desk tasting something. So I've always loved cooking. I grew up with a family that loves cooking. All of my uncles, all of my aunts, my mom, like everybody in my family cooks and they love it.
Okay.
I know we're not talking about this, but I love this like need to almost like solidify or back up with like skolo.
Yes, ne?
Because it
That
gives
was
you some
it.
sort of self-esteem. Yeah.
It definitely was it. I knew, because of just the kind of person that I am, I knew that I didn't want to wing this. I wanted to have credibility, which I think it's so important. Particularly as, and I don't want to bring race and all
No,
of those things
it's
in
valid.
it.
No, it
It's
is.
valid.
And
But
this is like, you like feel safe to, as a black female
you.
girl.
yeah, as a black female,
Yes.
industries like that, yeah.
So as a black girl, I understood the importance of credibility, right? I'm going into a brand new industry, and in that industry, I want to create a career for myself. So I want to ask people for money for my services, and I'll need credibility. I already don't have, social capital. I don't have the surname. As a grandchild of Mandela, and all these other things that I don't have. The one thing I can do for myself is get myself that credibility, and empower myself with education. So when you say, how come you can...
Like, you just
No,
go
actually, I went to Culinary School. Yes, I'm qualified. So I knew that was important to me in the very beginning.
I think that's awesome.
Right?
For me, though, it's there are threads or that link. Not only auditor, so you want to do the right thing by going to school.
Sure.
I mean, a lot of us do this, especially professionals. Even if we want to take a side thing, you want to have this thing. Okay, I'm credible.
I'm credible for
Yeah.
this. Yeah, absolutely. Because somebody else would be like, hey, I've done
Kilo pay.
my time, kilo pay.
And also, I guess it helps to have the kind of parents that I have. My mom is a teacher, my dad Kimuruti, and like
So,
they are also like, check,
You're a
checkbox
PK?
people. I am.
Oh my God.
But we can
Are you
tell.
too?
Nah, personally, well, you know her our
Yeah.
relationship is differently. But when
What do you mean internally?
Papa.
but let me say, when someone looks at you, yes, you get. I wouldn't have known PK, but you're like, we'll get into the conversation, of course, later on. But your social media,
Let's talk about that. That's actually a perfect segue into this because we are talking about personal branding.
Yes.
So this brand that people have of you, or this image that people have of you before you enter into a room, when you say Lazy Makoti, there's already an image people have in mind of this person. And let's talk about building around that. Who teaches, because for me, you're an expert at it. Who teaches you? Who teaches you to do this? You're somebody who's come from auditing. How do you find, you started a podcast, absolutely, but Ukadile, top tier. It's like, Iskwen, she had like a photo shoot for it. I was just like, damn, girl, you're really coming in guns blazing. You're that person that really does things to the
If I do it,
T.
I want to do it.
Yeah,
If
and
I'm
you
not
do
going to
it.
do it,
Yes.
then
No,
let's not
you
do it.
really are this person, right? And
For
so,
better or worse.
right? Because
Yeah.
sometimes perfectionism can really hold us back.
Take
from
away from
But
that.
for me, you're an executor, and so who teaches you the skill around social media, and when do you realize the power of it? Because I learned of you from social media, and I'm quite sure 90% of us learned of you from social media. It's not like people can say the book, yes, the book has done strides, but Riboni social media being, yeah.
I don't think that, definitely in the beginning, that it was that calculated. I did have a few lucky accidents. But yes, at some point I recognized the power of social media. For me, social media is like this little TV that you carry around. And people pay big money to get themselves on TV, to get your attention. And I have that for free. And I knew to use it to maximize on it. I forgot the question.
Yeah, basically how you've used social media. So maybe you can walk us through that journey of like, I spoke off a rough question would be like, was there ever a time you trended and you're like, hey man, I'm onto something here? Or, what's the point that like turns that you're like, oh, this is a thing. This is the platform that I'm going to use.
So, okay, I'll tell the story and maybe in it, the answer will be there. So it first started with a Facebook page. I don't think at the time, like Instagram was quite the thing. So it started with a Facebook page and I would share recipes. And that gained momentum very quickly. I didn't expect that, very quickly. And then came Instagram. And I guess even in the very beginning, I knew that I wanted to tell one story and one story only, the story of food. So you won't see me dabble with like a car brand or with like beauty. You're never going to see me doing my makeup on camera. That's not me.
Was that shade?
No, not at all.
Say what?
Friends. No, of course not. But I knew that I'm telling one clear story.
Yes.
And that's it. So when marketers are sitting in a room and they're deciding on who to work with, and they're a food brand, I'm going to be the name they think of. Because ahona klata.
Yes.
When you come to any of my pages, you know what to expect. You're seeing food. You're not seeing that I fought le mang mang. You're not seeing that this is my favorite destination. This is the car that I like. You know what to expect. Yes, that comes with losing out on certain opportunities. I've had other brands that are,
So you turn them down.
I say no. A very clear no. Not let's talk about it. How much is your budget? It's a no. I don't want to confuse my audience. You come to me, you know what you're getting. And that's the only thing I'm giving you.
Where do you learn that?
I don't know.
Marketing 101, go tax, I don't know.
I read a lot.
Okay.
So I think I must have stumbled
Yes.
upon it.
I love that.
Reading
Self-education.
somewhere or like watching a YouTube somewhere. But I recognized the value of having a clear message. And of course, we are multidimensional. I'm multidimensional, and so is the Lazy Makoti. So we're not just defined by one thing. So in the main, yes, it is food, but I do talk about, being South African. I love South Africa more than anything. So talking about food is the vehicle with which I talk about South Africa or talk about Africa or talk about being a woman or being black. But it's all around food. It's all around food, around the kitchen. So I'll show you my favorite gadgets that I use in the kitchen, my favorite spices, my favorite drink, but everything centers around food. If I ever take, for instance, a brand trip, it's a food brand trip. It's a trip where we're going to talk about food. So I don't want to confuse anyone. If you're coming to my page, this is what you're looking for. If this ain't it, I'm not the one. Yeah.
Oh, I really love that. And it's so true because, as I've gotten to know you as a friend over the past maybe 2 or so years, I've just learned how there's this different side of her that you would never see on your socials. You know what I mean? Just like a fun, non-foodie side. And I'm just like, this is so interesting, because for some reason I thought, hey, we're probably going to be talking about stampo, because that's all you get. And this is what I was chatting about with a friend of mine over the weekend, that sometimes on socials, with a 3-minute clip, we'll want to summarize who somebody is. But there's like this whole, but now I was speaking about it negatively. And as you're talking, I'm seeing how it's actually a good thing. You should be able to put a public face forward and separate it from the rest of you. You're saying, this is me, this is food. And that's the part of me, of myself that I'm willing to give you.
I always put it this way, particularly when you are a content creator, influencer, person working on the internet, you need to decide what this is to you. Is this a side hustle? Is this a hobby? Or is this your job? So think about someone that's working in corporate. There's an Ursula that shows up Monday with the suit and she talks a certain way, she walks a certain way. It doesn't mean Ursula doesn't go clubbing, Ursula doesn't go to church. But those things, this is not the space for that. This is your job and this is how you present at your job. You're not faking, you're not becoming somebody else. No, this is Ursula at the job. And then there's Ursula at church, there's Ursula with your family, with your partner, and then Ursula in the club.
Yay.
All those people exist. Mara here, we want Ursula at the job.
At the job.
Corporate
that's who
Ursula.
we hired, actually.
That's who must show up. And I think that it's also important to create boundaries, and I think your audience and people in general will respect the boundaries that you set. I think it was Meghan or Prince Harry that said, just because at my office give me pictures of my children and you come and you look and you say, oh, they're so cute, whatever, that's allowed. But that is not an invitation to come to my house and peep through the windows. No, but you showed me your kids, so now I want to see more. But those boundaries, they must be set by you.
let's talk about that. Let's talk about you setting boundaries, and you've done it really well. You know, so we are doing a master class here, guys. You know, walk us through how you do that, and like you said, you had already decided that this is. But have you ever found yourself being in a, oh guys, no, I don't do cars. No, come on, do cars. Guys, I said I don't do cars. You know, have you ever found yourself, you know, you don't have to give us exact examples, but like, how do you re-emphasize and how do you build those boundaries? And have you found yourself bending in some places where you're like, I shouldn't have, and that's how I learned, you know? Yeah.
I'm very strict.
Yeah, I know.
I'm very strict. And so I know how hard it was to build this brand, this platform. I know. So there is no way that somebody else is gonna make me deviate from the clear path that I've set for myself. So I say a very clear no.
Okay.
A very clear no. You will know when I say it to you. As a suggestion, I'm saying no. So obviously, yes, people try. Once you've built, you know, the kind of numbers that I've been lucky to have built, people will try. And I think it's also the discipline of understanding not all money is good money. So yes, I'm getting this bag right now, but what does it mean for what my 5-year plan is? So I always try to come back to that. But yeah, I have very clear boundaries. And I think the other thing is also not making your career your life. So I'm not the Lazy Makoti. The Lazy Makoti is my brand. I'm Morao, right? So when I'm with Ursula and I'm with my friend, that's not the Lazy Makoti. So I think drawing that clear line between, you know, you and your brand. When you come to the Lazy Makoti's Instagram, that's who you're seeing, the Lazy Makoti. You're not seeing me and my family. I'm going to my cousin's baby shower today. That's not going to be anywhere online because that's none of your business.
Sure.
That is Morao. If I had an Instagram page, I would put it on her Instagram page and not on the Lazy Makoti's.
Sure.
Wow.
Right?
It sounds harsh, guys.
I don't think so. I don't think so.
I'm learning a lot from it because I think, I
think what you said is really, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Ursula. I think what you said is important. What is your aim? Because for some people, your brand is you, like, and that's okay. You can post the baby. That's why I'm saying it's not harsh. It's just what you've chosen for yourself. It's like saying someone at work, we don't talk about my personal life, we talk about work.
Yes.
That's what you're doing.
Yes.
And people don't find that weird in corporate.
Yes. And you're using social media exactly the same.
It's your job. So you only see my job. And I like that because I like that it's not taken away from the fact that there are people who will mix. Like I'm that type of person. It can, well, personally, for now it's my job. It's just my personal life. But one day I'm posting work. One day I'm posting my baby. One day, you know, and all of that is okay.
Yeah. If you could maybe just walk us through going back to the story. At which point do you release the book, and at which point does this thing start skyrocketing?
So the Lazy Makoti started about 2015.
Wow.
2015. So it has been a while. It's like a slow burn.
I like this. Building a brand takes time.
It takes time. And I think that we don't always think of it that way. If you think about all your favorite brands, they're probably like 100 years old.
Sure.
Absolutely.
So actually, like I am in my infancy, going into 10 years, still in my infancy. So I think that's also why I could take the time to go to culinary school and do 2 years in culinary school and another year at the Saxon, because in my mind I understood that like I still have time.
That's so powerful. A lot of people don't understand.
A lot of
that.
people don't get that.
A lot of people don't.
There's still so much time.
Because to you, because I found your page yesterday, it feels like you're an overnight success. You get to me.
You can scroll down.
Yes, actually, girl, it's been a long time coming. Yes, but please continue.
And, you know, the thing I love most about time is that it's so forgiving, you know. Initially, things weren't as perfect as you say they are now. It took a while for me to come up with a logo, to come up with, like, what are brand colors. It took a while for everything to be cohesive and say the same thing. But back to how the book happened. So I was giving these cooking classes for a few years, giving recipes on Facebook. Then people would start asking, can't you consolidate all of these things in one? And then that's how the idea of a book came about. So then I started thinking, how do people make books? So then I obviously cold email a few publishers, and I'm here to pitch my book. I knew that I want my focus to be on traditional Black food. Then I get a pile of no's. I mean, no after no after no after no. And the reason was Black people don't buy cookbooks. And here are the numbers. They just don't do well. Maybe do like an African take
a little
on...
bit there, you know. My heart really sunk. Yeah.
I'm going to heal you just now.
Thank you.
So maybe do an African's take on Italian or fusion food or Asian food or something. But like these people that you're trying to talk to, they don't buy cookbooks. And this part I don't understand, Linda, why I was so adamant. I was like, no, this is going to work. Then I'm going to find out how to self-publish. And I have the best partner and manager. He's just so amazing. And we were like, okay, we're going to figure out how to make this happen. We're going to publish this book. We made like a mock-up of a book. And then I cooked a few things that would have been from the book. And we went to Exclusive Books to pitch. And we were going to pitch, this is what the book's going to look like. I want to do this book. This is going to work. And from that process, I'm realizing a few things. I understand how I got the no's. It was because in the rooms that I was pitching, there was nobody like me.
Yes.
There was no Katlego, no Lindiwe, no Zandile, who understands that Black people actually cook and they cook their own food.
And we actually need to know
Yeah.
Exactly.
Especially this generation. Yeah.
Yes. Ursula, who has money, who lives in Bryanston, still wants to know how to make magwinya. Like, that's a thing. So the people I was pitching to didn't understand. In their minds, no, once Ursula achiever, then uja sushi, and that's it. Right? So anyway, we at Exclusive Books, we pitch. The day that we're there to pitch, the people that end up being my publisher, are in the Penn Macmillan, who undersigns the publisher, is in the building, and then then they sit in to the presentation, then they end up chatting to Quivertree, who ends up publishing the book. That's kind of how it happened. And sure, I had so much faith in this book.
Wait, can I just know
can't-
Pan Macmillan, Black representative, or are you talking about?
A Penn Macmillan international publisher. And then they speak to their, South African leg
like a
that does
subsidiary.
cookbooks, who's Quivertree.
You know, from the beginning, when you spoke about UNESCO, the piece you read, your commitment to making sure you have the cookbook that speaks to Black people, it's so political.
Everything, honey.
Like your fight,
Everything
like this
is
was bigger than
political.
just food for you.
Yeah.
Yes.
For you, it's bigger than just food. You are really trying to get our story out there, our food
Yes.
story out there. That's the vibe I'm getting. Like,
See, if you were in the room, I would have gotten signed. See, this is why our people have to
Representation is
get into
important.
all of these rooms.
Yes.
Representation
Yeah, because
is so
all
important.
from the beginning, when you're reading UNESCO, you're like, but where are our dishes? Sharp. Then you're like, but where are the books that speak to us? And the way you were committed to not shifting to say an African take on, for me, it's so like a political, like, you're not gonna say Viva, but you're literally saying,
I love
I
what
want
you-
a
yeah.
story out there.
I love what you're saying. Like you're talking about a motive behind something that's
Yes.
bigger than just. It wasn't like and now I'm wasting money and time. Let me go back to auditing. You had a bigger vision and purpose, and also we all just missed this like serendipitous moment where like coincidentally on the day that you're coming to present.
Yeah.
And it's just that thing, I can't remember who talks about it. It could be, I think it's a book, definitely a book, something about like when opportunity meets preparation. Maybe it's just a quote,
Absolutely.
right? It was that moment, because you could have had that moment and not been as prepared and not had this mock demo book. Like, you know, you could have been at this. Oh man, I love that.
I'm a believer. I'm a
Right?
believer.
PK coming through. PK coming through.
But just to circle back to what you're saying, I guess also one of the reasons why I don't share like my personal life, I'm going to get her down and all those
And
things.
then get her down.
Those that know.
Yeah.
But it's also because I don't want to distract from that.
Sure.
You know,
Oh.
I understand that.
I love that.
Would you gossip? Would you all those things? I know that they sell. They make you trend. They make you in. But I don't want to distract from what I believe to be my bigger
Absolutely.
mission with
Absolutely.
the Lazy Makoti. So
Absolutely.
I'll sacrifice not trending for you to get like whoever's gonna land up on my page with my books is gonna know what it is that they're here for. And that's the only thing I can give.
And you're selling Africa. You're selling African food. You're representing us.
I
And
love
it's
that.
bigger than, you know, just trending a quick whatever. And oh, that's beautiful. That girl, I'm so proud of you. Like I'm having a friend moment. I'm like, oh my gosh. So okay, now DMs. Let's chat DMs. So people
Yes.
come through because I've realized, you know, in our journey, sometimes you don't know how to like separate. I mean, I've been in so many meetings with people. Yeah, I'm calling you guys out now. Where they make it seem like they're calling you for something legit. Hi, Ushlam, whoever from wherever, I'd like to. And then you realize this person just wants to meet you for coffee. And so let's walk through the practicals of now, like, how do you start sifting out? Because I'm still struggling with that now. You know, where I'm like, hey, I'm not sure if this is a legit thing or this person is really just a fan. And, you know, how do you sift through the DMs?
Very lucky. Sure, I'm just a lucky girl. Very lucky. I met my manager,
Yes.
and very quickly I realized because those problems are many. People DMing you, making it look like something just so they can get to know you or meet you, whatever. Very quickly realized the need for a manager. So for someone to be in between those conversations. So you DM me, I'll give you my manager's number, I'll give you his email, and that's who you talk to.
Simple.
Easy.
I
I
really
believe
like that.
in boundaries, guys, so much.
No, and it's really good, and it's something for a lot of people to learn because I think once again, we don't like circling the black female thing, but as black females, you know, bend, you know, I'll just say black people actually bend, turn, twist, you know, we don't get things in a straight line, but you're saying, come
You
at me
have
correct.
to. You have to, and it's also my manager is also what's the word? He's facilitated so much. I remember the first time we asked for a brand for big money, and I was like, black woman.
Yes.
Oh no, isn't that too much? So I knew even in the beginning, the manager that I wanted had to be a man. Because I know a man only audacity. I don't know, you're gonna ask for it. And then I'm like, hey, what if they say no? What if they go away? What if he's like, no, then they're not for us. So I knew that I needed that. So what I'm saying is I don't have it all. What I don't have, I'll go look for it and bring it on board. And that's my manager. He's like, only audacity.
Yes,
He's like,
I hear you.
no, let's ask for it.
I love this part of partnering with you. And then also just walk us through that part of like approaching brands, because often I think we're disillusional to how much work actually goes into looking for funding, you know, and doing things like that. So, you know, how do you get to this place where, because I'm sure now you're at a place where a lot of brands approach you, but, you know, at first you're the one who's knocking on doors. And in fact, it's not really a question. It's actually just to say thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
Because I think often once people have gotten to that level, they forget to tell us that I actually had to knock on doors, you know, and I actually had to ask. You walked us through the publisher story, you know, because it like people will make it seem like I was just doing my thing on socials and Macmillan approached me and they said, we want to give you a book deal. You know, people make it seem like, but you're walking us through, no, guys.
And I was rejected.
And I was rejected.
Many
And
times
these,
over.
yes, and these are stories that we just don't hear. You know, so like really, really, we appreciate that. Has there ever been a time on this journey where you're like, hey, auditing, you're calling my name?
Never.
Really?
Not ever. This is it. This is why I'm here. I know that this is it.
Yes.
I don't know how to explain it. Like, I feel like I'm plugged into
Where you're
the
supposed
creator. I believe it so much. I remember this friend of mine was saying, she wants to do this and this and this. No, man, I must do it now while I'm still hot. And then, or while I'm still relevant. That's what she said. While I'm still relevant. And I'm like, what do you mean? Ori, no, because one day we're not going to be relevant. You are not talking about me. I am always going to be a part of the conversation. And I really truly believe that. And I give Lily with arrogance or
I hear
anything
you.
like that. But I think that the work I'm trying to do is ever expanding, and I'll always be relevant
Absolutely.
to the conversation. And yes, I will shift and change and pivot as I should, but no, I'm here.
And like you're saying, the purpose.
I'm 100-year brand.
Ah, yes, girl. When can we expect another book?
Sure. You're gonna make me cry because this next book is it. You know, I know we say this about all books. This will be my third book. Well, actually, I just did a book for a brand,
Yeah,
for
with
I'm a
J
Ruler
something,
with
yeah.
J something. But this next book that I'm currently working on, has me in my feels. The other thing I want to say is, in the journey to building a brand, understand that it is a journey. So what it looks like on day 10 is not what it's going to look like on day 1,000. So I guess the patience to walk those steps. And I want to credit maybe age. Because by the time I started the Lazy Makoti, I'd lived an entire life. I'd worked, I'd studied. And so I guess in a lot of ways I didn't have the impatience that a young person who's just gotten on social media and believes that like things must be hot
deserve
tomorrow
a-
and I deserve. So I didn't have that. I think I was lucky in that way. And maybe because content creating and being an influencer wasn't a thing exactly when I started. So I had the time to just like be and figure it out.
Yes.
I don't know what I was trying to say. My next book.
Yeah,
So
it's it.
yeah, it oh my gosh, it's it.
Can I speak to? I know that you got a good relationship with another Black female chef, and you guys put each other on, which is something that we often don't see in the industry. We often want to make it in silos, but it's not true of whether it's detrimental or not. Like I look at Gail and Oprah, best friends, both anchors. In different ways, you know, Gail is more like news related. I think she's on Good Morning America or something like that. Yeah, and then you know, Oprah had the Oprah show, and they're just great in their own. But they're best friends, and they roam together, and you know. So I look at that, and it just reminds me of how I think often in the industry people want to pit people against each other, and so when I saw that, I don't know if, but I saw that you guys travel together and whatever. I was like, you know, here's another example where we don't have to be. There's room enough.
For all of us.
For
There's
all
so
of
much
us.
room. There's
You know?
so much room. If you think about like how a BMW and a Toyota and an Audi and a Lamborghini, all these, they can coexist. Why can't you? You can't be everything to everyone. You just can't be. And it's a very lonely road, and you need someone to walk it with you. So I'm glad I have her with me.
Ah, look at that. No, I absolutely love that. Yeah, that thing was, it's always just such a reminder. I'm like, yeah, two people in the same industry, you know, and they're on social media, and they're just not going to be pitted against each
And
other.
we do
They're
exactly the
besties.
same thing.
Yes.
Yeah. And we shut it down very quickly. If you try
Yes.
Kampa Zanele, very quickly, I will.
You're just like, no, boo.
I'll handle
Not today, boo. I love
No.
that. You know, I really love that. I love to see Black women standing together and just saying there's room enough for all of us. Guys, get on the stage as well. Cool. How shifting, let's all get on the stage, you know, and I think it's very heartwarming, and it's just such an enjoyable thing. So, you know, as we round off, if you want to just share a few pointers once again around social media, building your brand. What are some of the nuggets you can share with us?
I think number one, like I said, having like a very clear picture of who you want to be. I love beauty. I want to be a beauty influencer, and that's all. Not all I'm going to talk about, but that's primarily what I'm going to talk about. Building, I guess, predictability, being consistent about the one clear message that you talk about. If anybody's ever interacting with you, they know what they're going to get. So don't confuse the people. Don't give them
Yeah.
don't confuse them. Talking to one clear thing, and then every other thing will build from there. An example is I do food, so it makes sense that the day I put out products, it's a cookbook and it's an apron and it's crockery and it's ready-made kits. So all of that. I also think I got lucky with the name, the Lazy Makoti. So even when you first hear it and you're not quite sure what it is I do, you can kind of guess. Makoti is like, literally means daughter-in-law, but it's like this term for a person that's synonymous with like being a homemaker, being a great cook, the kitchen. So you can kind of guess that. Lazy, easy way to do it, convenient way to do it. So putting the two together, making your life easy in the kitchen. You can kind of get to that. But something else that I hadn't thought about till a friend mentioned it is something as easy as having the same handle everywhere.
Yeah.
Make it easy for people to find you. Like, I'm the Lazy Makoti on Facebook. I'm the Lazy Makoti on Instagram. I'm the Lazy Makoti on TikTok. I'm the Lazy Makoti on my email address. And I'm the Lazy Makoti on X. So once I'm follower on Instagram and you're looking for me anywhere else, just look for that same person.
You're right. Actually, only underscore mang this side and
be the same person. Now they're going to be looking for Ursula 123. Kamuki Ursula 101.
Yeah.
Don't do that. So the same person, something as simple as having the same, like, what do they call
Aesthetic.
it? Avatar picture.
Oh, okay.
Everywhere.
Okay. Yes.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
So it's easy. If I get the name wrong, then Gavana Noman, it's the same picture. It's the same. So try to apply. There are people that have done this, and they've done this really well. Just copy and paste, guys. Coca-Cola has done it, and they've done it spectacularly. Just look at what they're doing and try to apply as best as possible. Obviously, you're you're not like a big brand like them,
But you
like
can emulate to be.
you can. You really can. Just copy and paste. It goes back to when I was picking what would be my brand color. I knew that there must be something about red.
Red.
So I researched
That's
the
first
color.
thing I think about when I
Yeah.
hear Lazy Makoti, the apron
The red
with the
apron.
white trim.
Absolutely.
So I researched the color. What's so special about the red color? You know, the emotions that are invoked in you. That's why I stay living like a red, because it makes you, then you buy, you know. If you think about the big holidays, Christmas and Valentine's Day, they're red. Would you Coke and Vodacom?
I love
they're
you
red.
so much. Like the amount of thought that you've put into this thing. It's not a joke.
I read a lot.
That's amazing. You really put in the work.
So I thought about, you know, all of that. So now when you see red, you must see it December. Everybody's in red. Yeah,
The lazy Makoti.
So it's just like thought and consideration behind everything that you do. Of course, being consistent, saying the same thing over and over and over again so that people get it. That's it.
I really love this thing of saying the same thing over and over again, because you underestimate how you think, I've said that. You know, I remember we once had a guest who came and says, oh, but I shared that on another podcast. And I was like,
You know?
not everybody watches that other podcast.
You know?
Maybe you got, let's just say at best you got 100,000 views. They are in Gauteng alone. We've got over 15 million people. So, you know.
Coca-Cola still advertises. Coke. But they still advertise. They still pay big money for a billboard, big money for a TV ad. But you don't want to...
Right?
Yeah. And I guess it's also getting out of your comfort zone. Especially when you start, like, creating content and putting it online, having people judge it. And of course, they judge how you look, how you said it, how you stirred it. Now my mom doesn't make it like this. You have to really be brave. And you have to keep doing it no
you're
matter
touching
what.
on something that we didn't ask, but I have to ask.
Yeah.
Negativity on socials. Navigating that.
Yeah.
Because ingada.
Yeah.
Bo, my mom doesn't do it like
Yeah.
that. Bo, you know, how have you managed that?
Like I said, one, I credit age. And we never do, but I credit age. I think it's also how I survived the industry kitchen. So after you study to be a chef, you must do a couple of months to a year in the industry kitchen. That kitchen is hell. It's hell on earth. Kore, they teach you, but like they abuse you.
Yes, yes.
I actually
What's
think
this
like
nonsense?
Just like Gordon Ramsay, then.
Go back.
It's like Gordon Ramsay.
it's like Gordon Ramsay, but you're the 17-year-old fresh out of culinary school. Can you imagine what that will do to you?
Yes.
So I think I survived it because like I was in my 20s and I knew I am not here forever, so it's fine. And also with age, I could contextualize the head chef being in a mood. I don't know, maybe go high, there's something. This is not me.
Yeah, that's emotional intelligence that you don't have at 17.
You don't have it. So when you don't understand, why do these people hate me? No, they don't hate you. They hate their lives. Or they're having a bad day and they're taking it out on you. Or sometimes they're racist. Sometimes they're sexist. And that's all that it is. What was I answering?
It's like negativity. And socials, yeah.
So yeah, I think I credit age. And also I think this generation is online a little too much. I think just understanding that this is not exactly real life. So obviously having the grace to take feedback is another thing. There are big companies that pay big money for feedback that I get for free. So I don't discredit. So I not all feedback, even when it's negative, is bad. There are, I promise you, there are big companies whose job is just to to get feedback for people, for the big brands, for the big companies, and you get it for free in real time. Is another thing. Honestly, feedback, but if you get it 2 years later, it's not useful.
Yes.
But I get it in real time. Someone can comment and say, you know, I really dislike this. If 12 other people say the same thing, then it's worth me investigating.
Yes.
So there's also that, like, the maturity to understand that even when it's negative, even when people don't always have the right tact and delivery,
Yes.
but don't just discard it.
Yes.
Look into it. Why would this person say it? Why would they say it this way? And if it comes back repeatedly, now you really need to investigate.
And not taking it personally, but
not taking it
yourself as a
personally.
business
Exactly.
that would pay for that feedback. Oh,
Do you understand? So when you the value of in the beginning deciding this is a business page.
Yeah.
So everything that's said here, I rather lazy makoti, not morao.
Oh,
And being able
this
to
is
take
a
it.
lesson.
Yeah. And like I
For
said,
me
it's
too.
valuable. It really is valuable. And people are giving it to you for free. They don't realize they're giving it to you for free. And some of it, also understanding the language of social media. People talk a certain way. I see it when someone says something negative and then you meet them in real life and they're so kissy, nicey, and you're just like, okay.
Yes.
But you realize it's their language when they're on Twitter. They speak this way. But in real life, they don't talk this way. It's so unfortunate that we've taken on a certain kind of
culture,
language.
yes.
Combative
snappy.
for no reason
Yes.
on social media. So it's also the grace to understand that, like, this person is speaking this way because they're on Twitter. So the feedback that they're giving to me, because it's on Twitter,
It's interesting that you use specifically that platform, because for me, each platform has its own
has its own
language.
voice and language.
Yes.
And yeah.
And they
definitely.
execute. I'm not on X. I don't want to be on X because it's so like, how? You catch strays, you know? And so, like, I love what you're saying, knowing that there's a certain language that goes with the platform, and doesn't mean that you have to disregard everything that's being said.
Please don't. Don't. These people are giving you gems
Yeah, man.
that, like, a big company would pay money for, and you're getting it for free. So don't discard it. Look into it. Where are just people yapping, which happens. But yeah, don't discard everything. Just listen.
Right?
Yeah.
Kochai.
Yes.
What do they say? You know, because I come from a typically black family, and it sounds like similar with you, conservative, just being
Very.
a PK. Yeah, I would assume that it's conservative. Your mom's a teacher, dad's a pastor, you know. And so my mom is very like, Skybear social media, everything Skybear social media, you know, like very cringy. And I get it, you know, there's a lot of things that she wants to protect me from. And so now with you, the first time you start, and then this thing starts growing, you know, what's their reaction?
I think in the beginning, because they worried how you have a job, Nganaka, you have why you're a caterer. I'm trying to explain. No, I'm not trying to be a caterer. Then what is it? And I guess the initially not being able to explain what it is that I wanted to do, because I was literally still making it up as I go. So there was conflict there. But then as things progressed, particularly when the book came out and it did what it did, then they got it. They're very happy and proud.
I love that. I think, I'm not too sure, it was a few years ago, I think it was DJ Zinhle's mom, who's like very like, hey, I was like, and then Ngaboni Malingen. That's the statement I remember. Ngaboni Malingen. I think I could be wrong, but I think it was DJ Zinhle's mom. And then I was like, oh, the money's gotta come in for you guys,
Because ultimately, your parents want to know that you'll be okay.
Yes.
True. That includes financially.
This is very true.
It's very important. Yeah.
Hey. But it's always a risk. Going for your dream is always a risk, because we see so many people who went for the dream and it didn't work out the same way.
Yeah.
But not to say that you shouldn't go for your dream, but it's a risk.
It's a risk. It could go either way.
It could go either way.
It could go either way, and that's something that you need to know. And it could take longer than you anticipated. So
Can we expect a restaurant from you, friend?
Not a traditional restaurant. Not a traditional restaurant, but I recently went to Magugu House, and sure,
By the way,
I was so
congratulations.
inspired.
Yeah, you were amongst amazing women there, and I'm like, my friend's also there. Yes.
Thank you. So I was so inspired, and I mean, it had been something I'd been thinking about. What would the space that the Lazy Makoti would occupy, what would that look like? Obviously, it would have a restaurant element, but also maybe a gallery feel.
Ooh.
So I'll tell you guys about my upcoming book, exclusive.
Yay.
Thank you. You need to come back.
So I did a podcast, and one of the guests that I had is this lady called Anna Trapido. So she's an anthropologist. So she does work around like culture, heritage, history, and her particular interest is Southern African and African. So then afterwards we get to chatting. And then from like that conversation, we decide to do a book together. And then I remembered gifting a friend who was getting married a book, wedding planning. So obviously it's a very Western book, which are all the books that exist on like wedding planning. So how to pick your bridesmaids, how to pick the perfect dress, table seating, how to pick the perfect flowers, when the invites should be out by, etc., etc. And then it got me thinking, there actually isn't an African equivalent of this, a Black equivalent of this. So you're a guy, a girl, you guys want to get married. How do you write the letter? What's in the letter? Who delivers the letter? Who's receiving the letter? How do you pick a delegation? What day do they come? Who decides that? Why do you bring brandy and not vodka? Why do you bring a white chicken and not, who decides how many cows and what do they mean? All of these things around like getting married as a Black person outside of the West.
We have
what does
a
it
whole
look like?
episode on this confusion around traditional weddings.
Listen.
It is the one. You said the next book is the one. It is
What I
the one.
So all of that. So obviously now we are like neck deep in like research. No shame. God snapped when he made Black people. No shame. The best thing he ever did.
I'm so excited for this
We were
book.
made on the 6th day. On the 7th, he rested. Like, amazing. It's so beautiful.
Yes.
It's so beautiful. So I can't wait. We obviously doing all the cultures, Sepedi, Setswana, Zulu, Xhosa, Ndebele, Swati, everybody in a book. And this is how, as a vendor person, you get married. This is how you write the letter. This is what's in the letter. This is who you send. This is what you send them with. These are the gifts, etc., etc. So while we're doing the books, obviously we uncover other things. Other things like the music. I remember seeing a tweet from someone, yo guys, we're the new adults, but we don't even know
songs,
got a
yeah.
funeral. We don't even know the songs. But like wedding songs, do you know them? I went to a wedding and they played like Mafiki Zolo. And we didn't sing, not once. And it's because we don't know the songs. We don't know what they mean. We don't know when you sing it. Do you sing it ka umabo, ka the lobola? Like, when do you sing it? And what's the significance?
You're so
and that's why we
right.
don't practice them.
Ooh, I've seen people sing the wrong side songs. Like Uma Gotingo Wait, but you're on the bright side.
You know? Yeah.
This song is basic. I hear you. We don't know actually.
And you know, in the end, political. In the end, the only thing that will tie us to this land is our culture, it's our heritage and our traditions. Arna land, we don't have it. Is our language. That's the only thing. Using as evidence that no, we are the people of this land. One day, I'm telling you, maybe not 10 years, 100 years from now, someone else is going to say, what makes you believe you're entitled to this land? Uluring, auna land, auna title deed wena. And then you think about how many, it's no shade to the parents, but how many of the people from my generation are raising kids who don't even speak their languages. That's another topic for another day. But 100 years from now, if you are already raising a child, what's going to happen? What's the likelihood that 100 years from now, their lineage is still going to speak Spade?
Things may fade, just like the Khoi language. Yeah,
honey, it's going to happen. Then somebody else, I speak the language of here. I speak Afrikaans, the language of here. You speak English, the language of England. What makes you think you belong here? And you will have nothing to say. This is why we must keep doing the work to preserve our heritage, our cultures. It's the only thing we have. Alina Goldie, Alina nothing. But the only thing you do have is your culture and your heritage and your language. And we have to fight for it.
Sure, this chat
I find
is
it so
interesting.
awesome that you're working with an anthropologist, because that's what you do. That's what you do. That's really what you do. Yeah.
Yo, it is really what you do. And I love this idea of like preserving somehow, because we were chatting about it this week. We were talking about preserving culture versus, cultural appropriation versus are we supposed to be sharing cultures? What's this thing of like wanting to hold back? And we were engaging, and it was a pros and cons, really. It was that kind of, but I didn't mention this pro to say, guys, there needs to be some kind of preservation that happens. Otherwise, there's a dissipation that happens over time.
It does. I know that now it's hard to like cast your eyes 100 years and like see it. I remember this professor once saying, the problem with Africa is Africa doesn't have a 100-year plan. So now these things that maybe don't mean a whole lot to you, and you can't imagine them disappearing. Like you can't imagine being in KZN, Bazulu, Zulu. But that day could come.
Hey.
Look at Australia, and there are examples to show us that this thing is possible. When you think of Australia, it's like England, man. You
don't
the
think-
Aboriginals.
you don't think of the Aboriginals
They're
first.
gone.
You don't think of them
Yes.
first.
And we
You
don't have to go
don't.
far, Watiba. We don't have to go far, guys. Let's just think about us and, like you said, the songs. We've lost a lot of songs. Kids, I don't know how to make nkomboti. I don't know. There's so many things. Just here.
Wedding songs is something. There's also this other thing that our grands used to do that I'm quite sure. Ditori, dipale.
The non-one.
You know what I mean? Yeah. My granny used to do this one. Mpulele. I forgot how easy. How am I going to teach my kid mpulele? Like, I don't even know what the words say, how it works, all those things.
Khiba. When last did you see one?
How
Khiba?
slay.
Like, I went to Kretchen and Khiba. Like,
Do you know what Khiba is?
I know.
it's when
It's
you
like a Suchi
kneel.
dance.
When you kneel and then you
You do that.
Yeah. Well, sorry, guys, you can't see.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you like,
Oh, yeah.
Rahim. I grew up with that. Kind of kneeling. Woke.
you see?
It's not even coming. The song is not coming. Just here. We don't need to go far.
Please,
But I
please
really
release
love
this
the
book.
word.
We need it.
No. The book is coming. So the first book, it was supposed to be one book, and now it's turned into 5 books.
Yes.
So the first book is about like the process of getting married, which is like the genesis, the beginning of a family, the beginning of the Black African family is marriage. So sort of the sanctity of all of those things. If you think about it, if I ask you a Western wedding, you know that you must wear a veil and you only are allowed to wear a veil when this happened. Something blue, something borrowed, something. Ritual, honey. Somebody else's rituals. But ritual. You know, wearing a ring, saying the vows, having the dad walk you down the aisle, throwing the bouquet, unte the gata. Those are rituals. Or something. What's the same for your people? That's what we're trying to get to.
Sure.
So going back to Would I Ever Have a Restaurant, I imagine that as we're writing this book, obviously we're also uncovering like recipes around what you feed people when they come for the first meeting, the concluding meeting, umabo, all of those things are obviously going to be in the book. And I think that's kind of what the space would look like. It would look like a gallery where you can kind of experience the book in real life, in a space. Yeah.
We were talking about the space, and then you gave us like inside scoop into the book, and we're so excited for you. Oh,
I'm excited. I'm excited.
It's lovely.
But it's also, sure, that's why I didn't have a birthday actually, because this book, because I also realized the things we lost in the fire. There's so much about us that we don't know. Like, we don't know. Hey, these things could die. A lot of them have died. And it's heartbreaking. I think in your head, you kind of know the impact that colonization and apartheid has had.
But when you're now
but you don't know.
research.
No, you don't know. Like,
Yeah.
it's shocking.
It's like when the violences come up, you're like, guys, this was extreme. Like when people tell you, or people were, this is maybe their arms were cut off or what, you're like, this is actually way bigger than you thought.
We
think.
I'm thinking of this poem, Charles Mangoshi, who says, if you don't stay, he's writing on the Zimbabwean country at the time, says, if you don't stay bitter and angry for too long, you might finally salvage something from the old country. You know which poem I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've always thought of it as like, just move on and get over it. But as you're speaking, if you don't say bitter and you pause and you research, you might actually salvage something from what we had. That's what you're doing. You're pausing to say, guys, let's actually see what did we have, and let's wipe off the ashes from the fire. You know what I mean? Like that poem just took a different light for me. That poem just gave me a different light. Like I just had a different perspective on that poem.
I'm glad, but yeah, guys, we have to do better. We have to do better. I was reading something a few days ago about how even the classification of people, so Kimupedi, but we are actually Basotho ba Leboa and not Bapedi. Bapedi is not a dialect but a subset within Basotho ba Leboa. Hona le Mapulana, Balobedu, Batlokwa, all of those people, and then one of them happens to be Bapedi. So while they were translating the Bible, some German guy decided, hey, let's just call them Bapedi. And that's how we were recorded. And now that's what we call ourselves.
Yes, and you're right.
Bapedi. Everyone must fall under that umbrella.
Because Bulubedu Vele is a very different language.
It's a very different language. Sipulana is a very different language. Sitlokwa is a very different language. Marke Mapedi, because some German guy, as he was translating the Bible, picked one, and then that was it.
So,
hey,
yeah.
I mean, everyone, Maxhosa, Mapondo, there's just
Yes.
guys.
Yes, I even thinking around Zulu people. What's the other groups there? Among Zulu people, there's other groups under them, man. Guys, I just can't think of one example.
Yeah, but someone decided on
Or specifically under Zulu.
under Zulu.
Oh.
I'm trying to think of the one that my friend always says. No, I'm technically not Zulu. I'm what? But I'm forgetting.
Yeah, I get that. Even Xhosa people have that.
Yes,
Yeah,
I'm
everyone
technically
has that,
Bondo. I'm technically, yeah.
exactly. But someone decided, no, the umbrella term is this. Let's go. Yeah.
Yeah, I think after this, we should all be challenged to say in our own spaces, what are we doing to preserve our culture in the workplace? What, in whatever space you find yourself in, what are you doing to preserve history? In your kids, how you raise your kids, what are you doing to go back to basics? What are you doing? Yeah. Because like you said, the fact that there's a lot of kids who can't speak their home languages now, that's not something to be proud of.
And I honestly, I love the part of like writing it
Yes.
because there's a lack of documentation, and hey man, and you're just dusting off the ashes and you're piecing it together, and what's lost is lost, but what is still there, you know, you're making an effort to document, and we really appreciate you. We celebrate you for that.
Thank you.
Totally veered off from social media.
I know.
But this other, it needed to be covered.
But the one other thing I wanted to say is we are still African, guys. You're as Black and African and valid as Shaka Zulu was. So even current day Ursula deserves that documentation. So document Ursula and her parents and her grandparents.
agree with this.
And then 100 years from now, your lineage will have that information. Because yes, Rebaizite somewhere, and we didn't recognize the importance of writing things down. But now we know. And now we can do better.
I agree with this one. Even like digital documentation, there's some frivolous videos. One would call frivolous, but I always try to imagine 3 generations from now watching this video
those.
Yeah.
as to
Absolutely.
how I did things.
Absolutely.
You know, it might seem like a really big, and I might not necessarily share it on social, but it's on my Google Drive, and I'm hoping it'll be there. Thank you, Google. You know, so, you know, and I'm hoping that it will stay, and that 3-4 generations from now, this is my great grandmother doing laundry. You know, on the washing line. Kanako, there'll be no washing lines, maybe. Maybe there'll be this instant dryer, you know, or whatever there is at that time, disposable clothing. I don't know what will be at that time. But, you know, just seeing like that, we've learned the lesson. This generation is learning the lesson of how detrimental it is not to document. So, you know, by all means, right now, we should be in the era where we're trying to document things of now. Sure. That was a beautiful point. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us. Thank you for not being stingy with the information and the knowledge, and thank you for always wanting to share.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. That was today's episode of the Conversation Capital. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, comment. Use your social media. Our social media. So make sure that you share it with all your friends. We love you guys so much. For now, though, goodbye and God bless.